Tēnā koutou katoa, everyone, and welcome back to Mucky Hope Productions. I'm your host, Mucky Hope, and I'm joined today by a very wonderful special guest. We go way back, pretty much the first day I stepped here in Auckland, New Zealand, I was connected to one guy, and that one guy has been my best mate since the very start. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the amazing Nathan. Nate, how's it all going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Pleasure to be on.
Yes.
Kind of excited. First time actually talking to you on camera. Well, that's not true. First time actually talking to you on a camera with an audio. That's not true. First time talking to you on. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah, man. Like we talk about all these kind of shows together on like all the time, but this is our first ever podcast together.
Yeah. No, it's finally nice to probably like talk about Survivor and see other people's reactions to it, because I've never actually. I think we've said a lot of stuff about Survivor and a lot of stuff about other reality shows, and we never actually get to hear what other people think of our thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. No, but thank you so much, brother, for coming on. You're an absolute legend. We will be having Hamish / Stag Zero, who will be joining us a bit later on in the live. He's just running a wee bit late. But Nathan, Australian Survivor is back, man.
Yeah,
Australian Survivor is back. Like, what's your thoughts and feelings on Australian Survivor, like as a whole?
So, like, when I first started, I started, I think, in season 2, and it was actually you that got me back to watching it after I used to like American Survivor.
Yeah.
And I think both of us have kind of come to this consensus that it's Australian Survivor is just like peak Survivor in a lot of ways. And I really haven't felt this way since watching that first season, since watching those seasons with you earlier on in the days. I'm not a big fan of Survivor. Like, I mean, I am, but I'm more of like that casual enjoyer. It's like that meme of like Survivor fan, casual enjoyer. That's us too. And I really love the season. The season so far has just completely captured me in how wild and wacky it is in comparison to some of the other Survivor seasons I've watched.
Yeah, no, I adore Australian Survivor. It's what got me hooked onto reality TV in general. I also started with season 2, pretty much the same season. Like, we started on the same season together, right? Like, that was like the peak golden season of Survivor with Jericho, with Luke and AK. Like, phenomenal season. But Nathan, I have never seen a premiere, especially the first 3 episodes back to back to back, as crazy as this week's.
Yeah, this one was wild. I've never seen I mean, wild is the best way to put it, isn't it? I've never seen like more crazy things, not necessarily done, but just said on Survivor. Than some of the stuff and I guess like one particular action in the first episode that was just like so much you could say on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's quickly get back into it. So the season, I guess the theme of the season, Nathan, is Brains versus Brawn, right? We've already seen this before, like a couple of years ago, where we got to meet George and Haley for the first ever time. Oh, we do have a lovely comment here from Brendan. Welcome here, Brendan. Can't stay for long, but just came on to say hi, Nathan.
Good to see you, Brendan.
Great to see you too, Brendan. Like, I just want to say hi to you too as well, Brendan. I know you didn't say hi to me, but hi. But Australian Survivor, they love these themes, right? Brains versus Brawn, champions versus contenders, titans versus rebels. Where would you see yourself on the spectrum? Like, are you more of a brain or a brawn?
I'd like to see myself as more of a brain, but after this season, after the last 3 episodes, I don't know if that's true anymore. I think if I were to go with it, I'd probably call myself more as a rebel than anything. I did really resonate with the rebel tribe from the episodes I saw, like just the idea of it. I don't know if I necessarily liked the name, but I like the idea. I like the idea of people that are on like the fringe of society who like say things and who like investigate stuff that people at the top of society versus people who are just trying to come up. The underdogs. I think I really like that mentality. So yeah, that's probably what I most identify with.
Yeah, and even though it's Brains versus Brawn, since it's a strange survivor, even the Brains tribe has to be like completely stacked, right? Like you've got like
Yeah.
Rich who's super buff, like Kalen. Like I don't know if you know much about him, but he's actually a professional paddleboarder
Yeah,
as well as
that's
a
crazy. Like,
PhD student. Yeah, and it's like, how are these people brains? You
I,
know what I mean?
so I mean, like, I know you haven't gone to university, but one of those things that was a dig at you, but I guess you don't have any brain. No, I'm
I went to
kidding.
I went to a film school, okay, and I'm doing I'm doing great with it. Shut up.
I see.
Yeah.
Nah, it's like if you ever go if you ever go to like a comp sci lecture, or if you go to like an engineering lecture,
Yeah.
sometimes you'll just see, like, I feel like we get this idea that a lot of students, especially that do that kind of study, are like kind of small and lanky because that's what like movies and media tell us. Those
Yeah.
guys are jacked. I used to do med
Yeah.
school right next to the comp sci and engineering building,
Mm.
and oh my gosh, these people come out of there looking like they just hit the gym, looking like they
Yeah.
just ran a mile, and they're like, God, I can't wait to get back into the gym again after like the first workout today. And you're like,
Yeah.
man, how much time do you have on your hands?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And also,
I think it's kind of, oh yeah, no, I was just saying, it kind of matches the marine biologist, like marine, PhD engineer kind of look of
yeah.
like, this guy who's just really jacked, really buff, and is also doing just like really cool stuff with investigations of science and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the dream, man. That's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we do open the season, Nathan, with a challenge, right? We got to use a little bit of brain, but like it's mostly brawn, right? Where you got to like carry these very heavy sandbags to a designated area. You got to build sort of like a foundation almost, but then you got to use your brains and you got to like tie up like the palm fronds to make it like a hook to grab the key. And we see that the Brains tribe don't really have a brain. They're like the scarecrow from what's the movie? The Wizard of Oz.
What was it, Oz? Yeah.
If only I had a brain, like Max and Rich, they grab some kind of like sack almost, and they just start like
Yeah.
chucking it at the key, which I personally thought that was a good idea. But when I realized it was just an empty sack, not like a object, like a shoe or something, it's like, oh, that's going to get tangled up, and it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's you should have seen it coming. Like, it's one of
Yeah.
those things where, see, it's a good idea in like thought process, like, and then as you like look at it and you think, if they thought just for like a second, right, like, oh, this thing
Yeah.
could get tangled up, this thing could block it. What
Yeah.
you'd really want to do in that scenario is just throw a stationary object like a rock, or like
Yeah.
or even like a stone, a coconut if you found one, a stick. But
Yeah.
even then it wouldn't have probably worked as well because of the way the hook works. It was a roundabout.
Yeah.
So you would need to hit it at a very specific point in order for it to go whoop, and then that, and then
Yeah.
you need to do that again and again. And I can tell what they were
Yeah.
trying to do, but
Yeah.
like they threw
See-
one sack, and then of course it just gets stuck.
Yeah.
Because what did you
See-
think was gonna happen?
Well, I feel like what you perfectly described is what the Brains should have done. They should have calculated the angle, like the velocity of the wind speed, like the dimensions of the sun, and like where
Yeah,
exactly to throw.
just like, maybe if I look at the sun a little bit longer, I can finally like understand what angle I need to throw it in, and realize that it's a bad idea. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You throw something that can get hooked at a hook, it will get
Yeah.
hooked.
But we do see that the Brawn tribe wins reward, and there's a small twist this season where both the tribes will start off with fire already like at their camp, but they won't get a flint. And I saw some people like talking online, and they're like, "Oh, why are they starting off with fire? This is like so easy for them now." Nathan,
Yeah.
I don't really care. Like,
Yeah, like you're still trapped
Yeah.
on an island. Like, You're
Yeah.
still building a shelter. It rains. Like, I don't know what
Mm.
do you want from these people? Like, do you want
Yeah.
like an edge of extinction scenario where like these people are surviving on the dew of a palm leaf?
Yeah.
Like, what are we looking for here, man?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we should just Squid Game, or the contestants, like make them actually starve to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really bring the survive in Survivor, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, there was actually one season, I don't think you've seen this one, but it was actually filmed in Africa. But this was like when Survivor was still like first starting. And they actually had like production keeping an eye out for lions. They didn't have like any like barricades or anything on the tribe camp. So if a lion snuck up on the contestants, they actually would have been stuffed.
Yeah, man, I miss the old days of Survivor when
Yeah.
when my contestants could get mauled to death by a random lion that jumps the fence, eh?
And then the contestants can call each other out, like, "Why are you lying? Why
Why are you lying
Yeah.
to me?" As he's
Yeah.
just getting scratched to bits like on the
Oh my gosh.
it surprises me, like, I miss the old days of Survivor, when they had it in Africa, and it's like, I'm sorry, I had to get medevaced because I now have malaria.
So I had to get medicated back home. My arm was chewed off by a lion. I got caught in an elephant stampede.
I was guys.
Yeah.
I know in this African season of Brains vs Brawn, I wanted to be a brain, but after having 3 coconuts land on my head and having several concussions in a row, I see fairies and and I hear the color blur, bro.
But speaking of seeing stuff, we'll talk about a very specific someone, once we get to the Brains tribe. But let's quickly talk about the Brawn tribe, right? So we get to camp. They're like, all trying to build a shelter, all except for one person, Nathan, and it's our boy Nash.
Yeah.
And he goes walking around, and literally the first tree he sees, he puts his hand in it and immediately finds an idol. Oh my god! For 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes into the game.
I feel like that meme where it's like the guy going, "Oh!"
But no, it was absolutely crazy, right? Like finding an idol, literally 5 minutes into it, it's just nuts.
So Nash, in my opinion, broke 2 Survivor records. He broke and this is my personal opinion. I actually don't know if these records are real. He broke the fastest time to find an idol in the show. And he broke the stupidest way to use one.
I mean, yes and no. I think there is some merit to what he did with the idol, which, like, I guess we'll go into it, where he does show Zen straight away that he's got the idol. But then he just chucks around his neck, like, you know what? I'm just going to show the whole tribe. And he just walks around. No one notices it at first, and he's just
because it is kind of wild, eh? I wish he played that up. I wish he kind of was like wearing it, and he just pointed out to anybody.
Yeah,
and they were just like, "Oh, that's a cute little necklace. Did you bring like a Survivor prop to Survivor?" And he'd be like, "Yep." I really hope he would do that, but no, he actually flaunted the dang thing.
Yeah, I mean, something that I loved in one of the recent New Era seasons was when that guy Cody, it was when like you'd get the idol, but it was like a form of a bracelet, and you'd get all the beats from everyone. But he like wore it into a hat. It's like a hat idol, basically, right? Like you can literally wear it in plain sight, and no one would know. It's like imagine if Nash did the same thing, just never pointed out. It's just like, oh, yeah, it's just a necklace I brought from home. Oh, cool.
Like I remember I think it was actually season 2, my first season. AJ made a chicken idol and like a fake idol. Sorry, AJ.
Yeah.
AK made a chicken idol, and he kind of was like, "Hey guys, look what I found! It was an idol," and everybody's like, "Oh, that's stupid. That's weird." And then he actually pulled out a real idol, and then everybody was like, "Oh crap!" And like. I think like it would have been funny if he tried playing it that way, or at the very least tried doing it in some similar style. But he just straight up used it, and that was I can't think of a worse way of using something so good in the game. Right?
Yeah, and speaking of someone who I would never be able to believe would find a worse way to do anything good, because his music is just subpar at best. Ladies and gents, please welcome the amazing Stag Zero. How's it going?
You're right.
How's it going, Stags?
It's going good. My music is subpar. That's why I'm on this podcast.
Man, I feel you.
Yeah.
No, it's going good, bro. Just did one of those sensory deprivation floats. So wild, bro.
Oh no, it's like what sort of stuff happens at the sensory deprivation?
Pretty much, there's this. It's like a bath basically, and the water is filled with like a metric crap ton of salt, and so because that makes the water heavier than you are, like a bit of your body is submerged, but basically you're floating and you don't like sink underneath it. And you've got earplugs in, your ears submerged, like you just don't hear anything. And for the first few minutes, there's a bit of music, then it turns off. It's pitch black, soundproof, everything. The water goes still, and you just float there in complete stillness. Your body basically goes to sleep because you're there for an hour, and your body goes to sleep. And it's basically the only thing awake is like your mind, and it's just so like, man, it's so relaxing. It gives you so much time to like think, and like your mind gets real active. Like you like so super.
I heard those were expensive. Like I heard those were really expensive. Is there like a cheap one around?
It was 120.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh man. Well, I know, after some sensory deprivation, and if you want some sensory overload, that there's some kind of like maze. It's like a sensory maze or something that's in town that you can.
I feel like I feel like nobody would enjoy that.
Yeah, nobody does. But anyways, getting back onto Survivor, Hamish, we've just talked about Nash finding the idol and flaunting it around everywhere. What did you think of this move?
I know that you quite enjoy bold Alex the Lion players in games like this. You probably have made the observation that I tend to lean toward more nonchalant players myself. Yeah, I mean, I can't say he's my favorite. There are a few, look, in this first week of Survivor for this season, there were a few moments that made me like, what? Which I'm sure we're going to get. This was not the worst of those moments, but it was probably in the top 3.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I did love straight away, Nathan, is Noonan. Straight away she's just like, ugh, like she's just side-eyeing him the entire time. She's just like something that Hamish and I talked about. It's almost like Nash's AK and Noonan is Tara from season 2.
Yeah, except AK was smart and like.
Oh God. Yeah.
Don't want to insult Nash too much. I do respect the bravado, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot of players. I think that's been a common theme actually so far. Is there's a lot of players with a lot of bravado, and you kind of got to be like, you know what? I respect how out there they're willing to be with it. Yeah. But I'm also like a bit shocked at how it gets to them, and I respect Nuna for being like, man, he's really really like confident for no particular reason,
Yeah, I mean when it comes to a move like that, right, like which we'll definitely get into as we get a lot closer to tribal, but it's sort of a move where it's like you can't play the idol, you get what I mean, because it's used as like an intimidation kind of thing, right? Like you don't want to mess with me, I've got this idol, but it's like the second you play it, a lot of their power has gone. You get what I mean?
That's I've been curious about. I wonder what the near future will be like for Nash now, because he made this little alliance, but it was formed around the fear of what's going to happen because he has an idol. People made decisions they didn't necessarily want to make, like the 2 girls that wanted to flip against him, but they didn't. They're like, if this doesn't work out, he's got an idol, blah, blah, blah. Well, now he's used it, so people don't necessarily. People worked with him out of fear, and he no longer has that tool in his pocket. So he'd have to be pretty good at working people to keep on going,
Yeah. But just to quickly move away from the Brain Tribe, Nathan, we get introduced to one of the Brawns, and we get introduced to, in my opinion, one of the best players Australian Survivor has ever seen, right? Such like an iconic character. We've never had someone like her before. It's Laura, the witch.
Yeah. I think I mentioned something similar to you about that when I first watched it. I think we watched the first episode together. I was pretty tired when we were watching it. But my comment kind of still holds, where it's like, God, they're really like bringing everybody onto Survivor, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't think Witch was a real career that you could list. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's actually really cool idea, like just being like kind of going with the more wild side of the world, because I think that's what Survivor is about, right? Like it's about bringing these people that you would probably never see in groups together, right? And kind of bringing them closer and like just Laura straight up using that analogy of the coven. I initially thought Laura was going to be like was going to be kind of the weird one, but turns out there was another weird one, a very very weird one. But Laura using that analogy of the coven, kind of like making that alliance, and that alliance, I mean, for what it was for a tribe as wild as it is, that alliance was actually quite good for how disjointed the whole thing was. You're kind of like it's like kind of asking order from chaos, and you're still getting that semblance of order. And I really liked how she played that. I actually was on her side for quite a lot of the time. I don't necessarily like some of the decisions she made, but I did really like the way she was playing.
Yeah, well, Hamish, something that is really good in game like Survivor is having something that'll bring everyone together, like some form of social activity, right? Like there's a guy, his name was Coach. He did like prayer circles with everyone and stuff, where he would get his alliance to come together, do a bunch of prayers together. Like they'll pray, they'll find an idol, pray that one of them will win individual immunity and stuff. And now we've got Laura here. You know, she can read like auras and stuff like that. She's got a witch's coven with like all the girls, like Ali. Is it Karen? Karen? I think it's Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
Karen, Zara, Logan, and Indy, which we'll talk about a bit later on. Like, what's your thoughts and feelings on Laura creating this alliance?
I don't think it was Laura who actually first called it the coven. I think it was maybe Logan. I'm not sure. But anyway, she, in one of her confessionals, mentioned how she wants to be the person who is mutually a friend of everyone, and so everyone kind of ends up working with one another by like kind of proxy of her, and so that way she's not necessarily organizing these ranks, but she is the most influential. That's kind of, she doesn't want to be seen as this little cult leader, so to speak, you know, the coven leader, but that's what she's trying to do subtly. So I think it's cool. I think that the people that she's working with are very sure of themselves as well and what they want to do. They're very feisty. I think Logan's a good example of that. And so, you know, Laura went into that with this idea like, oh, I'm going to, you know, have all these people like, you know, we're going to make all these decisions, but it's going to be ultimately me, blah, blah, blah. But then her own little soldiers are kind of like doing stuff that she doesn't want them to do. And she's like, you know? You know, she just needs to start exercising the fear, you know? She needs to start being like, I'm a witch, like, I will do human sacrifice.
Well,
Hence, I'm going to be there. I threw him in the fire, you know?
Yeah, well, speaking of being thrown into the fire, right? We do have Nathan. You know, Australian Survivor has had some amazing legends throughout the years. We've had Rogue, one of the greatest female contestants of all time.
Of course. How could I forget?
We've got Sneaky Steve, like the true mastermind of the game. Like, let's be perfectly honest. And now we've got Mad Dog Kent. Yeah. And straight off the bat, everyone's getting fed up with Kent. He's got the machete and he's just hacking away at everything, like barking orders at everyone. And he's like, you know what? Like a lot of people are getting kind of like put it off by me. I need to create some drama, right? And he was actually the only person who was really upset at Max about throwing the sack into the key thing. He's like, it was your ego that stuffed us the challenge. So what does he do? He takes his hat and he throws it into the fire. What's like, why? Why, Nathan?
Okay. We're kind of skipping a little bit ahead here because we all know how Kent's strategy played out in episode 2 of let's try and get everybody for miles, right?
Yeah.
So Kent likes to. I'm a bit of a social scientist. I like to investigate how people move and how people think in scenarios and how they view the world. And Kent likes to use a strategy that I personally made up. It's called the PC strat, or the presidential candidate strat. And it's a very simple strategy, and it's worked tried and tested throughout history. So here's what you do. First thing, you do something bad. You commit a crime. You do something awful. Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing, you find a problem. All right. Now you find another problem that has nothing to do with the first crime. You just find a problem.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you admit fault to the crime that you committed. All right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, guys, I did this thing. You know what? It's bad. It's bad. I'm willing to admit it. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm a bad person. Then you say that the problem is worse than you. And then you're like, okay, but
that you cause.
Yeah. The problem that is there that I pointed out is worse than the thing I did.
Yeah.
And then the final step of this 5-part strategy is you run for president.
To be fair, bro, like Kent did a lot of things bad.
Yeah, it's so he would do a lot of things, and then he would admit to those things, and then he would say, "But guys, there's another problem." And
I don't think you get my meaning, bro. I don't mean that he did a lot of bad things. I mean he did real bad.
Yeah, no, he did terribly.
Yeah.
He was not good at the strategy. He was terrible at the strategy. I said that it's worked time and tested. Here's the first case where it has not worked.
Well, I mean, I will quickly give Kent some credit here, Hamish, where they're trying to find the hat the next day, and he goes up to Rich and he's like, "Wait, do you know who would be the type of person to burn someone's hat? Probably Miles." And Rich actually believes him. Like both Rich and Max actually do genuinely believe that Miles burnt Max's hat.
A team filled with brains, eh?
To be honest, he seemed promising. Like for a second, he was doing these things, and I was like, "Damn, like he's actually just vicious, bro," and it's working. But then I realized it wasn't working, and I wonder how much of it's like some Andy kind of Simon vibes, where it's like, "Yo, I have this perfect plan, hear me out," and then it just
Yeah.
I think that's the best part about the PC strat is like, it works until it doesn't. Until someone's like, "Wait a minute, that thing that you did is pretty bad." That thing that you like, sure, there's that problem, but you kind of terrible.
Yeah. And Hamish, like leading up to the immunity challenge, right? Like Nash, he's shown everyone on the tribe he's got an idol. It's like a fair tactic and stuff. Like, you got to come work for me because I've got this idol. But he wears it to the immunity challenge. Why would you wear an idol so publicly at an immunity challenge, Hamish?
I think that like with all due respect, like because we haven't finished seeing, and he's not been voted out yet, so he could end up being a player. But regardless, I think like a lot of other players on a lot of other reality TV show games, he probably has a certain level of arrogance, and I think now that he's like full centered, he's like committing to the bit of like, "Oh, I'm just showing everyone." Now he has to like commit to the bit, like, "Oh, fuck, like I have to show everyone," So I think he's just kind of like bullying himself into being like, "Yeah, like I have to like maintain this like image now."
Yeah, definitely. But like Nathan, like it's one thing to flash an idol, around your own tribe, but it's one thing to flash an idol around the entire cast that's playing with you, right? Like, do you really have much to gain for showing people on the other tribe that you have an idol?
It kind of goes back to breaking a record, right? Finding first one to find an idol so early and the first one to use it in such a dumb way. It's kind of like you don't gain anything from it. Arguably, if we're talking about strategy, you lose something from it. Because say Nash like does make it to merge, right? Or say a player moves to this from brains to brawn, or Nash moves from brawns to brain. You kind of now have this issue of like, this guy is one cocky person. This guy is one like person who really thinks highly of himself. He will try and stuff something up for the rest of us now, and so you've pushed that, I think, as like a thought process. Sure, I think that thought process will change as the game goes on, right? Like, because other things become issues, but like doing that initially, I personally think does harm your chances at the game. However, what it doesn't do is harm your chances in the public, because that's pretty funny. That's pretty good. Like, guys, I'm him.
Well, so something that like I do just love about Nash and even like with Kent as well, because I know that both of them are getting a lot of online hate at the moment, is that they're doing a really great job entertaining us, right? Like, like Kent is burning people's clothes, like he's super chaotic. like Nash is like flashing idols around everywhere, but like it's so much fun to watch. You get what I mean? Whereas my problem with New Era Survivor, right, Nathan, which we've talked a lot about this in the past, nothing really happens in New Era, right? Because everyone knows that the best strategic game that you can do is just to do nothing, right? But what I like about Australian Survivor is that people are willing to do what is probably considered really bad gameplay and just try to make it work, because end of the day, it's a show and it's meant to be entertaining. And I personally love that, even though it is a bad move that we can criticize, it's at least very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and also after you.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, it comes down to like Occam's razor, like the idea of sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. Sometimes staying silent and not playing the game, and sometimes picking, who's going to get voted out first, or who's the majority person that's going to get voted out, and just going with that. Like, taking the simplest answer is not necessarily a bad way of playing. But as I think we're going to get into later, it also results in a pretty boring game. It's not bad. I personally like it when people play smart, like when they explain their strategy and go about it. But it's more like, when I'm watching Kent, when I'm watching Nash, when I'm watching Laura talk about, the coven and how it's falling apart and all of that, you're just like, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this while I'm watching it, and that's something that you don't get a lot out of in a lot of Survivor, actually, I'd say. Especially more recently. Like, this is definitely fun.
Yeah. So, Hamish, what's it that you're trying to say?
I disagree. That playing silent smart and just following it to the end is the smart way to play, and that the only issue is that it's not fun for the audience to watch. Because if you get to the end and you played it smart and safe and didn't really do anything, well, why is the tribunal or whatever, why is the jury gonna pick you to be the winner?
That's true. That's true.
So playing smart and silent, like being smart and silent to orchestrate a big blindside is one thing, but playing smart and silent and just like staying safe is not only is it boring for the viewers, it's actually not gonna give you a much better chance of winning the game. You kind of do still to make big moves. Sure, be smart and silent about it, but you still have to make big moves. So yeah, like I actually think that just staying safe is, I think that is like not strategic gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the immunity challenge, brains do end up winning immunity. But Nathan, something I did find pretty funny is Noonan, she's like doing the puzzle. She's trying really hard. I feel like we're kind of shit talking a little bit, like too much on Nash, but Nash is literally picking up pieces that Noonan puts down. It's like, oh, I think it goes in this corner, and puts in like a different spot. And it's just so funny to watch. It's like I know he's like really trying. He's trying really hard to do this puzzle, but like maybe it's just an edit, but the edit kind of makes it look like that Noonan's doing a lot better job than Nash is, and Nash is just like taking everything she's doing. and just moving it away.
It's not even like just the puzzle. It was also the throwing of the bags or the ball
Yeah,
to hit it too. Like I get what he's trying to do. He's like, okay, I've used my idol, or okay, I have this idol. I'm gonna this is not gonna last. This little thing. I gotta prove myself. I gotta make this work.
Yeah.
And he will do things that will actively ruin the rest of the team because he once again, it's that bravado thing. He thinks a bit too highly of himself in a lot of ways when he plays that game. But like it's not necessarily like a bad it's not necessarily a bad thing because he is trying to win, right? He in the end he's trying to make sure that like, okay, if I can help out, I will, right?
Yeah.
But like taking a step back and like, you know, I get it, right? It is kind of boring to watch someone be like, okay, you know what? I know when I'm not good at this. But like it is taking a step back and like making those moves of like, okay, hey, maybe you should do this because I know I'm not that athletic, or I know I'm not that good at organizing these things here. Is actually a really good move to make, especially just in challenges. In challenges in particular, it's like you don't want to fight the power, you want to use it. And yeah, Nash has done this consistently, which is not. It's certainly entertaining, but he's also shooting himself in the foot. And as Hamish said, I think, you know, we don't actually know how far he'll go. Because, you know, a lot of these things might actually come back and like say he gets sent to the Brains tribe and they're like, hey, I saw you really try in that like other challenge, or hey, I saw you really participate there. You know, man, you're doing a thing. You're doing a good job. You know, you're really trying to put an effort. And he's like, thanks. And then he'll be on the confession like, I got them in the palm of my hand.
Well, I can say I would love if somehow Nash, the most chaotic player on the Brawn tribe, finds his way onto the most chaotic tribes of all time in the Brains tribe, right? Can you just imagine
right at home.
Can you just imagine like Nash and Rich teaming up? I mean, what a combo.
No, I don't want to imagine that. You can't make me.
Well, Hamish, you know, straight after the immunity challenge, we do see that Nash, like, he's pulling people away, but he's not really asking, like, hey, who do you want to vote out? He's like leading the vote as well, really trying to put himself in like the alpha position of like, listen to me, I got the idol, and we're all voting for Candace. Did you like this aggressive approach from Nash?
From the reality TV show games like Survivor that I have seen, what I notice is that people that play this way do like get a little bit of ground covered because people are like, oh damn, I'm being told what to do, like I don't want to step out of the line. But it's like you're simultaneously painting a big target on your back because there are enough people that are like, bro, like, I don't want to listen to you, I'm gonna get you out, you know what I mean? And you have people like Indy, who, you know, she's like, I don't want to vote with you guys are including me last minute, you know, so that kind of energy, you know what I mean? Same deal basically. So yeah, I think I can see why people went with him, particularly while he is an idol. But you know, like that, I feel like that cockiness only works because he has an idol again, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it doesn't seem terribly strategic, but he is just a bit of a meme lord, so I can't complain.
yeah, exactly. But Nathan, you know, shortly after he's telling everyone it's Candace, we do immediately see that Paulie, who's someone who doesn't really get a lot of screen time, like with confessionals, but you do see a lot of them in conversations, right? Like him and Noonan are really leading the charge in terms of like, we've got to flush his idol, and they come up with a plan to dump a bunch of votes onto Nash and to use Ursula as a split vote. Did you like that they were coming up with these plans to counteract Nash's idol?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I wonder what would have happened if they didn't try anything. Because and that's a genuine question. It's not like maybe they shouldn't have tried it. It's kind of like, because if I was playing Survivor, or if I was just thinking about how things work, I like even if I was playing a game of like chess or like any kind of like strategy game, my first thing would be like, I want to get rid of the most powerful piece, right? I want to get rid of the most powerful weapon. So my first vote no matter where I would go, would be the guy with the idol, right?
Yeah.
And spreading information about like, I'm gonna vote you out, man. Not because I have anything against you or you've been a challenge or anything like that, but because I know you have the idol, right? And
Yeah.
I would move around and just say that, and it would just happen naturally. Is what I'd assume would happen. But
Yeah.
once again, it was one of those things that strategy of like, let's split that vote and go down to Ursula, I actually think was relatively good. And I think one of the main issues with it though was a split. It's kind of just like it bringing up the presidential thing a lot actually. Splitting a vote down the middle always results in the opposing team against, or the opposing force against, both losing or winning. In this case, losing. If you have like an independent and then a party, and then you kind of vote, and then the votes for one split down the two, the third guy is always going to get the most votes. And so that's what happened with Candace, I think. That was really unfortunate. I actually did really like Candy in the moments I did see her. I think the edit was a bit mean against her. Like I didn't see much of her, and I looked down at like online forums and things like that before the episode, and I remember seeing like, oh man, they really did her dirty. She didn't really have that much confessionals or that many episodes, that much editing time. She only had one frame in the intro. It's like, sucks.
I mean, to be honest, that is just Australian Survivor for you, right? Like I know what is Champions versus Contenders 2. That was the first time there was a player who received 0 confessionals, got voted out, and turns out she was some kind of like power player as well. But probably the funniest editing moment though, for me personally, it was actually in the first Brains vs Brawn season. There was a player, her name was Chelsea. She was basically like working with Simon a lot, but like she wasn't really leading the charge of much things. Anyway, she ended up getting medically evacuated at the merge, but her medical evacuation was told to us by someone else who was narrating that she was feeling unwell and had to get checked up. And in the scene after, JLP walks in, it's like, so Chelsea's been medically evacuated. It's like, what? Like it was all told to us by someone else. We didn't even get to see Chelsea. But
was she just so like medically unwell that she couldn't even be on camera?
I don't know. Like if I remember correctly, like there was something that was like off balance or something like that. I don't know if it was like because they were playing in the Australian outback as well, right? Which is like 40 degrees during the day and stuff, right? So yeah, I forgot why she got evacuated, but I'm pretty sure it was like something that was like low-key pretty bad. But yeah, nah, sorry, mate. We're gonna do evacuation through someone else's perspective. But Hamish, everyone wants Nash's idol to be flushed, right? Like people are scared of his idol. They're like, we don't want him to have an idol. Even his boy Zen is like, I want to flush his idol, right? Like, how did this vote go wrong?
The reason the vote went wrong is because the one bro were meant to vote Ursula and accidentally or out of spite or whatever voted Nash, and so then the split wasn't correct. It was so simple. Like, like Nathan was saying, we didn't necessarily get a lot of Candy. I don't know whether I would have liked her as a player too much or not. Maybe, I remember thinking she looked like Jenna from Tonight Alive. That was basically the only observation you could make out of her. But I think because as funny as Nash is, like it is like me to be against somebody of that kind of personality. So naturally, I was kind of rooting for the other team, the other alliance. And so yeah, it kind of sucks that the one bro just voted the wrong way. When I saw that, I was like,
Yeah. Well, Nathan, something I found really interesting is that like Nash has a conversation with Kate and Morgan, who are the two people that flipped to join Nash's side and getting rid of Candace. But something that Kate says is that you didn't pull me aside for any chats, and you're coming up to me at the last second to chat, right? But she says that that like if she doesn't vote with Nash, then she'll be gone next. And she says that Nash said that, but didn't actually show us Nash saying that. So what I'm wondering is that did did Kate potentially think that, like, since Nash is such a power player, that if she goes against him, he's going to be going against her?
Well, and maybe
Or maybe
this
he
is
may-
what. Sorry,
he
you
may
go
have
ahead,
implied
Dan.
it. No,
Sorry,
that's
what's
what
that?
it said. He may have implied it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like Hamish said, this is the kind of psychology about Survivor, right? This is kind of like, wearing the immunity idol around your head and flaunting, your moves and things like that. This is where people maybe start thinking, oh man, like this guy really means business. So this guy's really like actually onto something here. This is probably where I should be a bit scared and kind of go with him in that regard.
Yeah.
In reality, it was actually, like, if you think about it for like 5 minutes, you probably could have gotten away with just going the other way, and voting Ursula or even Nash. I think if you even voted one or the other, you would have gotten a split vote. But like the fact that she did turn because she may have felt threatened, I personally don't know if it was warranted, but I can understand why, or I can guess as to why, right? Like that's probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah, definitely. But, really sad to see Candace go here. I kind of felt like it was done accidentally, right? Because Nash played as idol. The editing is really playing up that Ursula's going to be the one that gets voted out. Zen even tells Nash that the plan is Ursula, not Candace, which forces Nash to, like, go find Ursula and tell her, "Oi, your name's on chopping block. Your name's on chopping block." But then, Morgan and Kate flip to vote out, Candace, and it really sucks to see her go. But just while we're here on the Brawn tribe, because they don't have much really else to do for the remainder of this week, we do see straight away, Hamish, that Zen, there was a small cutaway clip of him in the first episode flipping in the water, and I feel like it was perfectly symbolic of what he's doing. He tells Nash that he flipped, right? That he flipped because Nash kind of puts the pieces together. Zen tells him, "Oh yeah, I flipped and stuff," but it still kind of seems like that Zen still wants Nash out.
You're on for president, bro. Yeah. I want Nash out now that he doesn't have an idol, right? Like, he obviously had to feel enough like he wanted to vote him out, to try to vote him out to begin with, right? So, yeah, it makes.
Yeah,
free my boy Nash, eh?
Free Nash.
free Nash, eh?
Yeah. Something that's kind of funny is that Noonan labels Nash as like a rash. She's like, Nash is just that rash that, like, you don't want to admit, but like he's he's there and stuff. And I do feel kind of bad for Nash here. Like, there's something very similar about Nash and George the first time he played, where, like, on the original Brains tribe, it was literally pretty much a majority alliance with a few outliers, pretty much just all against George, right? And George was trying really hard to, like, weasel his way in, but just nothing was working. He tried helping challenges, and very similar to Nash, he just, like, flopped at all the challenges, right? Do you see a path, Nathan, of Nash, like, making it forward in the tribe?
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, right? Like, it's one of those things where, you're not defined by your early game. You're not defined by a lot of the things you do. I think I think Hamish wasn't necessarily countering my thing about, like, playing silently is bad for the first and mid game. It's just like when you reach the end, it's not as entertaining, or like you don't get a lot of votes for, like, who you should win because you don't get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Like, playing loud in the early game and trying that stuff isn't necessarily like a death sentence to your game later on. It's just more it's just really risky and unnecessarily risky. So I do think he can make it. Like, I agree with Hamish. I think earlier in the interview, earlier in the recap, Hamish said that, we don't actually know how far these players can go just from their earlier actions, especially Nash. Hamish did bring up Nash. It was like, and I do think he can make it further. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's very probable, but it's not impossible, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. However, Hamish, a player who I'm very interested in, like as I mentioned earlier, we don't see a lot of like he does get a lot of confessional time, but he is all over, like sort of the alliances and the chats, and that is Paulie. And we do see here that Paulie actually does get an idol clue in the award they win. They get a whole bunch of like loaded fries and all these different toppings, but his napkin has a map to an idol, and he finds the idol. But what I found most interesting about it, though, Hamish, is that Noonan actually clocks him. Like she realizes, oh, like I know you went out searching for an idol. Did you find anything? But he only shares the clue with her, not the idol. Do you think he's making a right play here, like not telling her about the idol, but just showing the idol clue?
I guess a good place to start is I feel bad for Noonan because she clearly had a pretty embarrassing rash when she was growing up. Um, no, I would have done the same, whether it's the right decision or not. It's like if you have a close ally and you are both of the understanding that you've been pretty transparent with one another, and then 3 votes later, it turns out that you've been hiding something from them. Like, yeah, I would probably feel pretty burned. I mean, I might understand it, but I would probably be pretty burned if my closest ally did that. So, there's always that risk. But at the same time, you have these alliances, but if you're thinking you're going to be the sole survivor, you're going to have to vote out your own alliance at some point. Like it's like, right? Like there can only be one person at the end of it. So you might be bored with somebody right now, but like they're gonna have to go. So yeah, like it's good to like have your close alliances and have a certain measure of trust, but also to keep your cards close to your chest and remember to a certain extent you are always alone. And I mean people trusting too much is why blind sides exist. So I think that he did the right thing. I think that he can he can wheel in Noonan. Maybe later on, once he can see that she's trustworthy, he could say, "Oh, hey, I ended up finding it." Because if she keeps looking over and over, she has the map and can't find it, she'll figure it out. Like she's smart enough to get into the. She'll figure out he's lying. And so if he just gives it a few days, eventually, if he's like, okay, cool, I do want to work with her. She's like the bro. Then he can be like, look, I found it. I just found it this morning. But if he decides actually this is not good, I definitely shouldn't show her. Now he can start moving. Can't think of what I'm looking for, but kind of like actioning, her, targeting her, mobilizing is what I'm trying to say, mobilizing against her.
Yeah, well, Nathan, like with me personally, I feel like idols and advantages and trinkets are only good at bringing people together once you're in the minority, right? Like you're at the bottom, it's like, crap, we need some kind of hope to form us together. And it's like, hey, mate, I've got an idol. So there's like something we can at least do to try and flip the numbers, right? Whereas if you're in a position of power and you tell someone you have an idol, I kind of feel like that's giving them a reason to start thinking about you. Like, is this someone who I really want to work with long term? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like just in regular game theory, if you're holding more points or you're holding more chips, there's going to be more targets on your back, right? And an idol is just the ultimate like the ultimate tipping of the scale, right?
So,
It's a big it's some big crap. Like one of the main issues is you can like because the thing it does is it changes the game fundamentally. It changes the game from let's look at this vote of like let's get all of these people together and vote this person out and maybe split it and things like that. But then all of a sudden all of that work goes out the window because this thing just nulls a ton of that work. And like it's if you give someone with power the idol, maybe there's an argument to be said that it doesn't affect much because they already had a lot of power and now you're just adding a redundant amount. But it's a different type and it still changes the whole game. So yeah, I think giving it to someone who's already in power is like like it just makes them an even worse threat. So people will go after them, right?
And Nathan, I can't help but recall. Do you remember what happened last time we played Roblox Survivor? And you told me you had an article. Would you like to reiterate what happened there?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is my favorite memory of us playing a casual game together. This is, oh man. So I've done such a good job of getting it out of my head, but I'll do it just for you, my best friend.
Thank you.
So we were playing a game of Roblox Survivor, and I had found an idol clue, of which I was like, oh crap, I can now go find the idol. And the way the game worked was the idol clue isn't like a clue on where it is in the island. It's literally a compass that directs you to where the idol is. I don't know what happened, but I was going towards where the arrow was pointing to me, and then as I'm standing over it, it points the opposite direction. I'm like, okay, so I'm standing on top of it, but I didn't know like where, and so I kept circling this one point, and I couldn't find it. As the timer for the next challenge is beginning, I realize it's on top of a tree, and I try climbing the tree, and I fail. And throughout this entire thing, Mucky is like, you better find this idol. You better find this idol. Come on, Nathan. The idol is here. You got to find it. I don't find it. We play the challenge. He gathers everyone and votes me off. It was a unanimous decision.
And I was like, you should have.
I think
you should have found that idol, bro.
Your first mistake, Nathan, was not voting Michael off in the first day.
It was the first round. It was the first round.
See, Michael played right. That is the mandatory thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to.
I love him or hate him, he'd be spitting straight facts. Like,
But someone who's spitting straight facts. Brendan has returned. He says, "Hi, Nathan," etc.
Hi, Brendan, etc.
Yeah. Well,
my name is the trucker.
But let's quickly move along here, because something, another person does get eliminated here from the Brawn tribe, unfortunately, and it is Zen. So in one of the award challenges, they do like tackling over this net over water, which Brawn completely obliterate the challenge. Every 1v1 matchup, they instantly win. Right? It was so much fun to watch. But it does look like the Zen, he caught his fingers on something. And it is something that's slightly mentioned, but it's like, it'll be right. It's just some sore fingers. And I think even we were chatting, Hamish is like, oh, it's just your fingers, mate. Grow up, you'll be fine. And then it turns out he's fractured his fingers to the he's fractured his fingers. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Yeah. We're just like, oh, grow up. It's just your fingers, man.
It's just the thing that caused us humans to evolve into what we are now.
Yeah. It's not that bad. It's just slightly sore. She'll be right. And then he like got a whole cast and it's fractured. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. It does suck, and it's like something that's really sad. Nathan says, Strange Survivor in general does have a 24-hour like medical rule, right? Where it's like they can pull you out of the game for 24 hours. We've seen it happen with like so many contestants, where sometimes after that one day, they're like all good to go back in and play, right? But like fractured fingers, right? It's something that you can't really play with, right? Like, were you sad to lose Zen here in this way?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think just speaking from like a general standpoint, having to give up a really cool opportunity, like playing Survivor or just doing anything just because of like an injury that was like, for a lack of a better term, avoidable. It really does suck. It's what you sign up to do. This is kind of the thing that this is the social contract and the physical contract that you sign when playing Survivor. But it still really sucks that you don't get to play the game. It's not even that you don't get to win the money. You just don't get to play the game. And you're taken out because of such an unfortunate thing. But like, that's kind of how life is, right? Like it seems so insignificant at the time of just like moving hitting something against your finger or your hand, hitting a slight dent in the road, and then all of a sudden something completely screws up and it takes you out from something that you really love doing. That always sucks. It's why it's such an emotional part of the game.
It's like hitting the watch button on this podcast and be like, "Oh damn, my whole day's gone."
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know why that. I don't know how many people.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that recover from that, being like, "Oh, wait a minute, I can just turn it off."
Well, I mean, like, look, I feel really bad for Zen because I know that preseason I was like shit talking him like a lot and stuff. Like, I don't think he was going to do that well. He says he's got a problem with like authority and stuff. At first, I thought some of his raps were like a little bit cringe, but like it was very fun to watch. You know, like he was with Nash, and then he flips on Nash like twice. He's going to vote Ursula, but then votes for Nash. Then he tells Nash like he flipped, he's all good, but then he's saying confessional like, "Oh, I want to get Nash out," and then you know he flips on the game and fractures his fingers, and he's gone. Like I feel so bad for Zen, and you know what, Hamish? Bring back Zen. Like I'm keen to see Zen 2.0.
Yeah, bro. Like the Brawn tribe, bro, is like this piece of bread right here. And then when Zen goes, it's like empty because I've been pulling out all bits from it. But like that was like Zen leaving the game. It's like now all the Brawn tribe it's just this big outer shell.
Yeah, it's just Nash now.
Bro turned his dinner into the most beautiful analogy this side of 2025.
And unfortunately, that does kind of wrap things up on Brawn. Nathan, have you got any final comments on Brawn before we move on to the very not so brain tribe?
Honestly, that Brawn has played a solid game, like a crazy game for what they are. But you know, we're 3 episodes in. They're only one vote in. They've evenly won reward challenges between them. You know, I think just from a gameplay perspective, I like the Brawn tribe. I like just everything about it so far. It's got sadness, happiness. Sorry?
I said it's because you don't have a brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Hamish.
Very much.
You're right.
And but something here that Brendan does want to say though, such great poetry from my 6th favorite musician.
I'm glad to be your 5th, bro.
I'm glad to be your 4th. But Hamish, have you got any final comments about the Brawn tribe before we move on?
Yeah, I feel like they're the kind of tribe that has like promise, like they've got like cool ideas and cool things, but I feel like the execution, or like no, I feel like the long-term planning isn't. Like, for example, when we were talking about, you know, not using the idol when you're in the lead, like why would you tell people about it? Why wouldn't you say it when you're like, you know, the whole like expression of like, you know, appear weak when you're strong, appear strong when you know, that's from the Art of War. It's like that book which people have studied and like applied to things through like warfare and whatnot for centuries, and also like business. So many business models are based off of that flipping book. It's like it is like the foundation of strategy. And then the bro is like strong. He's like, I'm going to appear strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, they've got a lot of cool opportunities. I want to see a bit of planning from them.
Yeah. Well, actually, Nathan, there's something I completely forgot to bring up, but something very similar is that Russell from Champions versus Contenders, right? He found an idol and he like showed everyone he had an idol, which I just want to say on air, like Russell's not a great player. He was for like 2 seasons and he's just shit, right? If you think he's a good player, now, gosh, I shot the mic. If you think he's a good player, like, you know, like, sorry, he's not. He's trash. But anyways, what happened was that he chose not to play the idol, which I do respect that. He was wearing it around his neck at Tribal because, like, if he survives that vote, like, he's golden, right? He's going to form an army around him because of that, right? Which I kind of felt like that's maybe what Nash should have done, right? But then again, Russell literally got unanimously voted out with the idol around his neck, right, at the first or second tribal. So, like, do you think that Nash should have played his idol, like, regardless, or do you reckon Nash should have tried to hold on to it?
Honestly, if I remember the vote count correctly, I think he would have survived if he just didn't play it.
Yeah, he received 3 votes. Candy received 5 and Ursula received 4.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
I personally think that him not playing the idol would have been pretty cool. Because the difference between Russell and Nash is that Russell was just really unlikable. like
Yeah.
like he did it as like a power move, right? And then everybody was just like, yeah, but like we don't care if you play the idol. We'll figure out what we do once we get you out.
Yeah. It's like with Nash, it's like at least I'd want to work with him, but with Russell, it's like I don't care. Like I'm gonna divert my whole living existence to make sure that he gets
I'm gonna make sure my entire legacy is being the most unlikable person ever, and then proceed to brag once I survive everybody agreeing that I'm the most unlikable person ever.
Yeah. How about you, Hamish? Like, did you think it was the right call for him to play the idol in the end?
If I were Nash, I personally would have for this reason. If I were in Nash's position, I would try to put myself into the brains of my enemy, right? And let's say I was trying to flush out the idol. Obviously, Nash is the guy I want to vote out. If he plays the idol, Ursula is the collateral. But let's say he doesn't play the idol. Well, I want him out, so naturally we're going to pile more votes on him for the split. This is what I would assume would happen. So let's say we're like 5 votes on Nash and 4 votes on Ursula, right? That makes sense. If he doesn't play the idol, then he goes out, and then Ursula just has the second most. So in Nash's, that's how I would be thinking. It makes sense for them to put on the majority of it. If I don't play my idol, then I'm the one that goes out, as opposed to Ursula goes out either way. So play the idol. Yeah.
And I know there's that comment of, oh, he should have just like thrown a vote to Ursula, right, to potentially try and save himself there, right? But my main argument about that, right, is that let's say if you throw your vote to Ursula, but your one vote for Ursula is the one that sends her home, right? Like if the votes play out exactly how it does play out, Ursula would have gone home, like in a 5 to 4 to 3 vote, right? So I personally think if you're playing an idol, just stick with your alliance no matter what, because who knows what could happen. But anyways, that's enough about the Brawn. Let's go to the Brain Tribe, guys. And I'm so excited, Nathan, to talk about the Brain Tribe because, as you know, I love people, right? I've always loved people. I'm a very customer service social kind of guy, but I really love certain people, right? For Heroes vs. Villains, it was Sneaky Steve, right? He was my boy, right? We even made a theme song about him. Next season was my Survivor crush, Eileen. Loved Eileen, right? But now I've got a new person. Nathan. Someone who I'm so excited, right? I love everything that they are doing. And I reckon they're going all the way to the end and they're going to take this thing. It is the amazing Karen.
Oh, yeah?
The doctor. I reckon Karen's going to like, she might be wearing like the duck overalls, which ducks are pretty sweet and innocent, but she's got the quack of a freaking swan. All right, she's got the quack of a swan.
Oh man, she's
she's got like was it the gameplay of a goose? Because let's not forget, it was the goose that laid the golden egg, which made Jack kill the giant with. I don't know, I completely forgot that tale, but like somehow the golden egg saved the day, right, and made them a ton of money. And that's just the vibes to get from Karen. She's got the golden eggs to win, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, mentioning that you love people and your Survivor crush and right in front of your own crush is kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Just insane, man. Don't do it dirty like that, bro.
I mean, if somehow Shinbad is watching this podcast and like, I don't know.
Hi.
Hi. The odds of it. The odds of Shambadi watching this podcast is the same odds that Kent would have survived this week. All right.
Podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But we do have a comment here from Bear saying, "Love the Brain Tribe, the best tribe." I agree. I love this Brain Tribe so much. Like, Hamish, let's quickly dive into it. So I'll say the main player of the second episode is 100% Indy, right? So Indy She wants to join the Witches' Coven, right? It's sort of become an all-girls alliance, so she goes up to them. However, this is where things start to go wrong, right? Because she goes up to them, but immediately she's kind of thinking, if I did not go up to them, would they have accepted me in? You know what I mean? Like, would they actually have included her? Like, maybe they didn't have that many chats with Indy. I don't know. Like, we only see like an hour of like 3 days worth of content, right? So who knows like what all the chats were like leading up to that point. But you can kind of tell this where the paranoia really started to form, because she's like, why are you guys always hanging out, without me? That comment gave me fright. I didn't think there was anyone watching. Thank you, Brendan. But yeah, what do you think of Indy's approach here, though, Hamish?
I think that you say Karen is the goose, but in actuality, the goose is Indy because all her moves are silly. In seriousness, she approaches the girls, which already have this 4 or 5 or whatever it is, and they collectively made this little alliance, this friendship, where they were like, oh yeah, I want to work with you guys. They haven't approached her yet. Doesn't mean they won't, right?
Yeah.
And then you make this pitch. You put yourself into their alliance. Obviously, they're just like, okay, like, because they don't want to just be like, oh no, this is exclusive. You should vote against us. Nobody's going to do that. So, she obviously goes and she puts herself into that alliance. And so, like, if I was cool enough to work it that way, I would assume, okay, clearly they've already got something. I need to build their trust in me. I understand that they've already got something. I've just gone and said, hey, I'm going to work with you guys. Obviously, I'm not their number one. I need to build my way up there.
Yeah.
And then for her, the way she sees it is like, damn, like, I'm not number one. They must be going to, like, vote me out right now. I'm going to take down the whole operation.
Yeah.
And look, to be fair, while I think that's a bit paranoid, I get why you would be paranoid in the game. And what she tried to do, I thought was pretty cool. Like, I like that Girls Alliance. I thought it was sick. But when she approached them, she was like, oh, yo, they're trying to vote you out rich. I was like, no way. Like, yes, do this. This is so, like, chaotic. This is like, yes, like, it's better in the works. This is gameplay, And it was so all good because she said to him, like, they're throwing your name. He was like, did they say that? She's like, yeah, they said it to my face. And then you can see he's like, oh, damn, like, I'm going to take them down for a split second until she starts threatening him. She's like, oh, but, if you don't vote with me now, I'm coming for you. She almost had it. She even did the urgent, which is just like, this is our one to take them down. And you can see, like, the cogs turning. And he's like, yeah, this is the one shot we have to take them down. And then, like, she sold it. She did the perfect pitch, and then she's like, I'm gonna come for you. So it was like, yes. So she is the silliest of geese.
Yeah. Well, for Nathan, I mean, it's really hard, right? Because I at least respect Indy for trying to make a move here, right? Because when it came to the Girls Alliance, we've all been in that position before, right? Where it's like a party or like a school ball, right? Where it's like, if I hadn't asked... But like,
I don't remember you going. Like, what are you talking about?
It's like, what was I going to say? If it's sort of the vibe, right? Where it's like, if I didn't ask, would I have even been invited? Would I even be like a part of all this, right? Which I do understand that paranoid. You want to find an alliance or a place that feels like home. You want to find your core group, right? And I kind of feel like Indy, with the paranoia, she just didn't exactly find her group, if that makes sense. But something that is hard about Survivor is knowing when to make a move, right? And I kind of felt like, even though she is like sort of last into this Witches' Coven, you're still 6 out of 12, right? There's still 6 other people that they might chip off first before they even start thinking about you. Do you think Indy should have just like sat back and waited, or do you reckon she was going to justify to try and make a move?
Yeah, I mean, so this is the most surprising part about Indy's play to me, which is I'm specifically referencing a quote, and I'd like to hear Hamish's. I'd like to pick Hamish's brain on this quote as well, because I know he has one. It's pretty hard to tell, but so one of those things is she said that I'm not a number, And here's the thing with that statement. It was very ego driven, sure, but like being a number is not that bad in this type of game, right? Especially earlier on. So like if you look at statistics, the result of things change the lower the number is, right? If you're like 1 in 100,000, you're a number, right? And you're not tracked. You rarely change the outcome of something, right? You don't affect
Yeah.
it. But then all of a sudden that one change slowly becomes more significant as the number goes down, right? It's really it's basic like math, right? That the more the number of people or the more the number of something shrinks, if something changes, the result changes drastically.
Yeah.
Right. So being a number is in a game of 12 people is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
It's very basic like statistics in that way. So what really like agreeing with to vote the majority or agreeing to make a change in that regard or agreeing to keep to the status quo in itself is a really big move. In itself is like I feel like we don't give a lot of players credit for being like, oh, I'm just going to go vote for the person who everybody else is voting for. But like in reality, that's kind of what you want to do. That's kind of like how you want to go about it, because making those changes and like you are playing a significant game if you do that. And it's when you kind of go against it and your result changes. Now you're like, okay, well now how do I match it so that I'm no longer the insignificant number now? How do I match it so that now that there's someone else that I'm going for? And that really makes a huge difference. I think there's nothing wrong with being a number, and what saddens me and what shocks me about that little statistics lesson is that she's a business analyst. Like, this is her. I'm not the one to be teaching this lesson. This is a lecture I would be getting from her.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Nathan, you did teach me statistics for year 13, and I just barely passed, all thanks to you. So
yeah, no, thanks, man. I was trying to teach you at a higher level, but after 7 hours of going over the same question and being like, you add 2, and you're like, is that above 3? I just couldn't do it anymore.
That was a very hard exam, all right? Like, everyone passed, but that was a struggle.
Everyone got a merit, at least. There were 3 questions on that exam. 3 questions! One of the questions was you just had to write. One of the questions you just had to write why you picked the first answer.
But did Michelle here saying 7 hours? Yes, it was actually something
7
like
hours.
that.
He stayed at my house. We were like, let's study at 3 o'clock. He came to my house at 3. He stayed till 10 p.m. I'll be honest, half of that wasn't study, but it was 7 hours.
Oh, what are you talking about? Of course, we're study kings, Nathan. What are you talking about?
There's so much, man. It was back in year 12. Give me a break.
But Hamish, like something that I do appreciate, right? It's like, if you're going to go out and play Survivor, you got to actually play the game, right? Like, if I ever went out onto the show, and I felt the same for both you boys as well, and you got voted out, but you hadn't tried to do anything, or you hadn't done anything, you would walk away with so many regrets, right? Like you'd walk around and be like, oh, I wish I did this, wish I did that. But at least Indy can say, well, she might regret what she did going up to Rich and Max. At least she tried to do something and it just didn't quite work out. You know what I mean? Like Hamish, like I on the same sort of mindset, like at least she tried to do something.
She's, prior to making the decision that she made, she is at a fork in the road. She has two one, option A is following Nathan's train of thought about being a number isn't so bad, and it's not so bad for this reason. This reason requires a long-term plan. Maybe her long-term plan is, I want to get out this person. I want to get out person A. I really don't like person A. I can't work with them. I need to get them out. But I don't have the trust of my peers around me to make them agree to vote out person A yet. what I need to do is build their trust so that when I say, let's vote out person A, they'll work with me. How does she do that? She needs to be a number for now. She needs to be a part of their alliance with them, contribute, say, yes, that's a great idea. I was thinking the same thing. She wants to say it, build trust. Or votes later, or for, however long later, she says, okay, now look, guys, I actually have a really good idea. Let's vote on person A. And she's been to do this. And she chose to be a number for a few rounds so that she could build trust with the girl alliance. That's option one. That's she builds trust so she can do her move by being patient and by option B, the other lane from the fork in the road, right? Is maybe I can build trust with people by doing a big move with them now. And she didn't feel like she had that trust in anyone, or that anyone trusted her enough yet. Which is why she did what she did do, where she was like, okay, well, if I go to Rich and whoever, and then say, hey, like, let's do this, they're going to try to vote you out, then she builds trust. And now she's not just a number to them, she's one of their close friends. They're like, well, I appreciate that she did that. Now she's found click. You know what I mean? That's what she wanted to do. She didn't want to just slowly prove herself over time and then do a move that everyone else would agree with. She wanted to find her clique. She wanted to find her besties. Fair enough. She did it poorly, with all due respect. Don't hate on Hindi, but the execution wasn't there. I see what she was doing. Would I have done the same thing? Probably. I was thinking about, to be honest, while I was watching it, the episodes, like, how would I have played this season if I won it? And I know that I am generally somebody who likes to make decisions slowly over time and play the long game and strategize like that. But I also feel like you have to also make moves and sometimes if you're not wearing your idol around your neck, you can make big plays under the shadows and flipping, going and making your own alliance, and then it's like boom, big play, blindside. That can still be a strategic, silent, cunning game. So I probably would have even the same thing that she would have done. I would have seen it as better for me in the long run, because even though in the long run she is up person, it's like, is she still the top of their alliance? Probably not. So what she did was the right thing. She just didn't do it as she was meant to. Once again, she is on that entity.
Just before we continue with the next point, we do actually currently have 20 people watching live. I think this is the most we've had watching all at the exact same time. So if you are new to the channel, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, why not? And give our Instagram a cheeky follow, MuckyHopeProductions _ where I do try and post lively as I can regarding the Australian Survivor episodes. I keep up to date with some of my own memes. While we do have Australian Survivor memes here in the chat, I'm his #1 rival. Right, with some of my amazing memes. I think I've made 2 memes so far. So, I mean, keep up to date, guys. What?
You said like subscribe? Why not? Like I can tell them why not.
But thank you all so much for watching live. You're all such amazing legends. But we do have Michelle that brings up here. She said she regrets nothing. She'll do it all the same. I'm sorry, but that is delusional. She wants to get voted out. I mean, hey, sometimes
Boost.
I mean,
I went back on Survivor to do it again.
No, but it's like sometimes the best players never win, Michelle, right? What is it like? Aussie got voted out 3 times in the same season at South Pacific. Sometimes the legends are made the more times you get voted out, right? I feel bad. I'm not there to laugh at you in person. The different comment here from Brendan as well. It's all good and well to talk theory and numbers, but quirk of Australian Survivor is not everyone has watched the show. You're playing with unpredictable players who don't know better. And yet, in my opinion, that's actually the beauty of Australian Survivor, actually, because Nathan, like, we've seen a few New Era seasons together, and I always keep on complaining to you. Like, I'm sorry, but New Era shit, right? It's actually crap. Like, you've got all these super fans who know the game so well, but they don't do anything, because the most strategic, optimal play is not to do anything, right? And, we've seen 41, 42, and 43 together, right? And, like, they're all kind of, in my opinion, they're all snooze fests, right? but compare those 3 seasons to these first 3 episodes alone. Just like the massive difference in gameplay, right? It's like, even though like there are players who don't know the game so well, at least they're going out there making moves. Yes, they might be destroying their own game, or setting it to flames literally by burning all the clothes. At least like it's entertaining. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, bring up that statistics point in particular. Like, if you think of the game as just math, it's not fun, right? If you think of the world as just math, it's not fun. What makes Survivor like Survivor isn't a simulation to be run. It's a game of like wits. And even Indy's game, like while we do clown on it, Hamish did bring up a really good point of like, it was really entertaining. It was like, oh wow, this alliance now, the way what she's doing, it'll crash if she does it right. But it was just like a lack of not doing it right that really like brought her down. And it wasn't even that hard to like. The reason we're making fun of it a lot is because it was not hard to do it right. It was not hard to basically be like, hey, this is a problem.
Sorry, can you say that again, Hamish?
She just had to not threaten the people she was trying to
Oh man, what a great business analyst. Hi.
Hi, sign up to our business. Sorry, I said sign up to my business.
Michael, we can work together. Nathan, we could all be a trio. We will be the best. We will take I'm gonna vote you out.
I just love Rick's reaction to that. It was just like, we just go for her, hey?
Well, I mean, I guess like just to stray away from Indy a little bit, let's quickly actually also set up why this plan also failed as well, right? So we do see that Laura, she wants to extend the Witches' Coven to some of the guys as well, and she builds a really good bond with at least with Rich, right? Which is someone that my queen Karen, she hates his guts. Like she's really sick of Rich. Every time a lot of the females talk, he like talks over them. He's not really helping out around the camp with making the shelter, and also in challenges as well, where you feel like he would be the best at. He's he's a big guy. Like literally even in the last one with the slingshot one, he missed every single one, and then Kent goes in, and now it's 5 of them like straight away. And so like it's not really adding anything to the challenges as well. And so I do like see why Karen's like, you know what? Let's just make this move on Rich right now, right? Like we do have other other real strong guys in the tribe that could make up for him as well. Did you like this move that the Witches' Coven were trying to do originally, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, the original move was, I think the main reason was because they thought the guys were rallying around him, right? And because of that, they kind of saw him as a bit of a threat. Then Laura, the one who I think was, I don't know if she started it per se, that group, but she was the one who kind of like embraced that whole Witches' Coven idea. Kind of was like, no, because he's easy to manipulate and he's easy to utilize. So let's not do him. It was either that or it was. I'm pretty sure it was him. And then it was like, and then it was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, you saw that schism. It immediately started. There was no wait time for that, which was pretty funny. But like overall, I didn't think it was a bad strategy, right? Like kind of going after the guy who's rallying your opposing force is kind of probably the best move to do. My only argument with that is that Kent shoved a bunch of charcoal in his mouth.
Well, I do have to bring this up real quick, but Brendan says at least Indy tried. Kent was sleeping during this scramble. Yeah, so he's throwing Miles under the bus. He's like, sweet, everyone's all good to do Miles. Like, yeah, sure thing. Why not? And then he just goes and takes a nap. He's just sleeping.
My favorite part is he wakes up and he's like, wait, they were talking about a plan that wasn't
mine. Why do people call loved setting up shop?
Yes. Season 2. Nathan, in case you forgot, in season 2, when Kent on that season was on the bottom, he decides to just set up shop on the beach and let people come to him. But what's really funny is that no one actually goes to him for like the longest time. And then we have Kent here who's just taking a nap, Sorry, what's that, Hamish?
Kent, season 2, in his defense, has some crack up confessionals. Like, just some of the stuff he says is hilarious. When he was saying like if you can't find the most annoying one in the tribe, it's probably you or something like that. It's just stuff he says.
And what's really funny is that he doesn't even say who the annoying person is. So it's like, wait, doesn't mean he doesn't find it, which
I was reading some comments on the video that I was watching about it, and they were just like, boy, Kent thought he really cooked with that one, didn't he?
Well, something that Michelle does bring up here, he's been trying to get on for 10 years. So he's been pretty much applying since the very first season. Then he goes off and takes a nap. I don't understand. Yeah, it's
well, it was obviously very exhausting for him to apply all those times, and now that he's done his 10th application, he's like, oh, I'm beat, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
bro's like playing like a millionaire, eh? Man, I made so much money.
Well, I mean,
I've done that a few times.
Well, I mean, it's hard because it's like something I'm very interested to know is like, how did he see himself in the tribe? Like, did he genuinely believe he was like running the tribe to make everyone vote for Miles? Because how can you be that confident that everyone's just going to stay on Miles no matter what, right? And then even at tribal, he's still the only one apart from Indy to vote for Miles. And it's like, bro, get with the program. No one's going to do Miles.
That one dude who wanted to get George out, and everyone's just like, bro.
Yeah, that's Simon. Yeah. Yeah. No, but
No,
we do see
dude earlier who got voted out.
Huh? Oh, Michael. I think. Yeah. No, not me. Gosh, I mean, I would want George out straight away, but no, I would not.
Bro's living Kent's dream of applying for Survivor for 10 years, and then all of a sudden getting voted out because he's insane.
But Rich and Max, they hear from, and well, they don't really hear it. They get threatened by the information, right? They're like, "Look, you either do this move with me, or like, I will take you out." And Rich is like, "You know what? Let's go tell the girls this." And it's so funny because Laura is just telling Karen that how like they can't do Rich, they have to go for someone else because of this reason. And Karen's just like, "No, I want to get rid of Rich," which I gotta say, you boys know me so well, right? When I don't like someone, I really don't like them, right? Like, I get so worked up about it. So I do understand the frustration here from Karen. That like, you want to get rid of Rich so badly, but your alliance isn't really like listening to you. And then just how annoying is it that Rich comes around? It's just like, hey, yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, you're like, your own alliance member Indy's like throwing you guys under the bus and you're coming after me. But I know that's all bullshit, right? And just the look on Karen's face is just so funny. It's like, we've got this perfect plan going, and you spill all the beans. Why? And Nathan, it was just so good.
Yeah, I mean, in that scene alone, you could cut that tension with a knife, and Karen wanted to cut Richie with one. Like, it's kind of like, it's kind of really funny to just see how annoyed she was about him. But like, what I really did like about Karen in general is like, look, she hated him, but like, when it came down to who to vote for in those votes, she always picked the right one, and I gotta respect that. Like, there was always that, like, okay, I don't like this guy, but the emotion is out of this, right? Like, I've gotta play the game, right? I don't remember if it was, no, I don't think it was her that said it, but there was like a mention of like someone not really liking, I think it was I don't think it was Logan. I think it was someone else, and it was
Yeah,
like
I think all the girls except for Laura really seems to dislike Rich.
yeah. Oh, it might have been Ali. I think Ali was it. Ali
Yeah.
was like, I'm feeling genuine pain being around this man, and I've got to vote him
Yeah.
out. And then everybody was like,
Oh, it's Logan.
it was Logan.
So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm feeling genuine pain around this man. And then everybody was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I can't stand him being there. But there was clearly someone that needed to go. Like there was clearly like everybody else had that consensus. So like Karen thought with perfect strategy. Like she was very vocal about who she didn't like, but she still went forward with what she went forward, like the best move.
Yeah.
I think that's really respectable.
It's almost like completely opposite to Indy, right? Where like Indy's not exactly getting her way. So what does she do? She tries to make plans with other people to get her way. But Karen, she can't get her way. So what she do? She just lets it slide. It's like, okay, I'm going to trust the process and I'm going to stick with my alliance, right? Because end of the day, it's a 47-day game, right? Like you might not be getting what you want on like what's it? Like second tribal, so like the 6th day, there's still 41 more days to go to get what you want to happen, right? So
that was another thing. Didn't Indy say like there was a line where it's like if I don't do this now, I'll never get another chance. And it's like,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you will. Like,
you just play.
So many, just keep playing the game. What are you on about?
Defense with that line, that's a pretty good tactic. It's a pretty easy way to manipulate people if you're putting a sense of urgency onto it. I see the logic behind it being done. Particularly the boys and people like Rich would believe that a lot. So I don't think that was necessarily like I don't think she said that line out of emotions. Threatening them was her being like, I'm emotional for them. But when she said that this is our only chance, I kind of saw through that and saw what she was doing. Like that was obviously her going businesswoman mode, trying to like close her pit.
Okay, I can agree to that. I still think it was a bit of a silly line, but you know what? I can agree to your logic behind it though. That's definitely fair.
But speaking of logic, let's get to tribal council, eh? So, you know, people talking about like Max's hat and stuff, and Kent's like, all right, hold up, hold my beer, someone. Now, see, the thing about Miles, right? So Miles is like super strategic, having a strat chat. So my plan was to throw him under the bus, and I did that by putting Max's hat into the fire to make Miles seem you know, suspicious and untrustworthy.
Step 3, admit to the crime.
I mean, Nathan, it feels like that clip. I think it's from Community where the guy is like telling, like, I think he's holding a secret between like two groups of people. He's like, no, I'm telling you this, but I'm going to play both sides. And it's like, well, you're not playing both sides if you tell people you're playing both sides. It's like, yeah, but you won't see it coming because I'm playing both sides. Like, no, I see it coming. You're telling me, right? It's like, it kind of felt a lot like that with this, where it's like Miles is untrustworthy because of something I did.
Yo.
Yeah.
Let's just like consider the possibility that he was so proud of himself he just had to tell people.
Yeah.
He's like, I had you guys have
that hat. That hat that was that prized treasure for that one guy. I burnt it to the ground. I'll buy another one and I'll burn it again.
Well, he did tell Max that what I'm gonna do is I burnt the hat. But don't you worry, mate. I'm gonna buy you another one, and it's gonna be a way better hat, not something from the $2 shop. Yeah, and Hamish, I think you said this when we were watching it together. It's like, imagine if Max was like, this was like a family heritage hat. You know, this came from like my great grandparents.
Yeah.
You know, and like this came from like generations of like my great greats. You know what I mean? Like my great grandfather wore this during World War II or something like that, right?
Can you imagine if he's like saying that after he lost it? Like, so like Kent burns the hat, and the next morning it's like, guys, that hat was my last gift from my grandmother. Like my great grandpa fought in the war with that hat. Like,
yeah,
he got the Purple Heart while wearing that hat. And
Oh gosh, that would have been so
And then
funny.
Kent's just like,
Yeah, it was Miles.
Next, I'm going to admit the tribal council I burnt.
Look at I did. Look at my fun plan.
Yeah. But yeah, he just
Step 3 of the PC, baby.
And yeah, it's so funny because like we see like, and he's saying like, I'm here trying to throw Miles under the bus. So here's why you shouldn't trust him because of everything I do. And it's still going on. But unfortunately, we do get into a massive back and forth though between like the Witches Coven and Indy, which Indy does try to argue. So everything I spilled about you guys was true, right? But they're trying to play it off like, yeah, but it's just general chit chat. You go, I mean, it's nothing too serious. But Indy's like, right, but you did say that you wanted Rich out and that you're forming an All Girls Alliance. It's like, yeah, just stop, just shut up. Let us get away with this. But unfortunately, there's not really much Indy can really do here, and there's a bit of a landslide vote where it's literally 10 votes to 2 because Kent still believes that people are voting for Miles. And
guys, I don't think you understand. He's playing his own game, you know?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean, he's really playing his own game.
He's literally
like Kent's playing Skyrim, everyone else is on Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah,
We're playing single player in Survivor.
That's like Nathan. What I just love most about it, right? It's like he's trying to tell people that Miles is untrustworthy, but the only thing that Miles has done that's untrustworthy was something that Kent made up and confessed to, right? But something else is still really funny. Kent doesn't receive a single vote after like admitting all this stuff, you know.
I think it's kind of like, you know, when you get to tribal council. You actually go, Hamish.
They had bigger fish to fry.
I'd go Indy.
Yeah, I do feel really bad for Indy here. You know, like we kind of talked about earlier, but she was there to play. She played hard. She did kind of play herself out of the game. Unfortunately, so it's really sad to see her go. But you know, any final thoughts on Indy with that tribal before we move on to the third episode?
I think it's really just like what is it? You know, when you get to that tribal, you've already made your decision, right? It's actually pretty rare, from my knowledge, that you change your mind at tribal council.
Yeah.
Right. You've kind of like, okay, this person has played terribly. This person has been a jerk. This person is at the bottom rung because he's done something. And then you vote, right? Like, it doesn't really matter what's said at tribal council. What's usually said at tribal council is just people venting about like why they're doing certain things and trying to be a little hidden about it, but it never really is. So I think that's really what why Kent wasn't even considered in that first tribal council, because Indy Indy executed what was supposed to be a good move terribly, you know, and she did it in such a way it didn't just not make friends, it made enemies, you know, and the people who voted Miles just really didn't have a better option. They didn't really know about what Indy did.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of the reason why it happened that way. And then like Kent admitting I burned the hat. It was kind of like, well, cool, man.
Yeah. Cool
like, just great.
Yeah.
Like about you.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Hamish, have you got any final thoughts on this tribal and on Indy before we move on?
My observation is that when people make comments at tribal and they don't go out that round, sometimes those comments can cause form bad blood and make themselves a target. So although, like Nathan says, it's more often than not comments made at tribal don't change the vote at tribal. They may impact a later on vote, and I think that it was a pretty explosive tribal. Whether Indy was gonna be voted out or not, obviously she did get voted out. It was pretty caustic, bro, and it's like were in a coffin, and now you just like nailed yourself in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but let's move on to episode 3. Right. So we've already talked a lot about the Brawn stuff. So let's just talk about what happened at the Brain Tribe here for episode 3. So Hamish, we finally get to see Mad Dog AJ. You thought AK was the jam, but we've got the bloody Marmite and AJ, right? Because Marmite's way better than Jam, right? And so, because you got to really spread yourself out. But anyways.
Oh man, it's been a surprise that we've been friends with you for so long. Man.
It's almost been 10 years. Can you believe it?
No,
it's actually
after that Marmite line, I can't believe it.
Next year's 10 years. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. But anyways, right? So we finally see AJ, right? And he's like, you know what? We've got to make a big move here. There is an all girls alliance. It's very obvious, especially after Indy had called it out as well. So let's make a move here. Like Nathan, what's your thoughts on AJ trying to pull numbers together to take out the Witch's Coven?
So AJ specifically says that he like gambles, right? Like that was his whole thing. Like that was
he's
how
a
it was
poker player,
introduced and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
I just think it was a bad gamble, and I think he should have folded. It's kind of there's no fault in it. I think there's no like shame in being like I'm trying to make a choice here, but like just kind of going against because everybody was going against Kent. Everybody was literally like this man was eating charcoal from the fire. I don't think people talk about it this much.
He was eating the hat.
He was eating the hat, man.
Yeah, he was literally pulling.
He was rubbing it on his mouth, like.
Yeah. Well,
like we're talking about a brains tribe. Bro's brain is filled with microplastics now. Like.
Well, I mean, something to quick talk about. I do know that apparently charcoal is the way that you can brush your teeth out there on the island.
That makes it that makes it far better.
Yeah. No, what I was going to say. Yeah, it was almost kind of like with him eating the charcoal. There's like with that Roald Dahl's horror story, where like she kills a guy with a lamb, but then cooks the lamb and then gets the police.
Oh
to eat the lamb, Yeah.
He's eating the evidence. He's eating instead of the murder weapon. He's eating the body.
But
I want to take a moment to make a response to an earlier Marmite comment. That joke about the jam and the Marmite. I'm here. I've got the stream open on my laptop, and I'm gonna click dislike on it. I thought I just had to make a call. I needed to go to this extent. Actually, I'll click like to you. But I just go to that extent to get out my computer, just to tell you I didn't appreciate the lack of comedy. Continuing with
Michael's thinking in himself, like, man, if it isn't the consequences of my actions.
Well. What did I do to deserve this fate of the actions that
I committed?
I committed. Yeah, it's like, hey guys, I said a terrible joke which made Hamish dislike the video, but like, you should like it.
Average indie moment.
But anyway, so Hamish, AJ, he's trying to like rally the votes together, and he's got a good idea. He ropes in Miles, and it's like, hey Miles, like, is this something you're potentially keen to do, right? Because there's a bit of an interesting click going on with Kaylin. Because like, while Kaylin isn't shown very much, like he did tell Miles in the previous episode that, hey, people are saying your name because you are like over strategic, having those strategy chats. So just chill out. And that's exactly what Miles does. He sits back, he chills out and stuff. So we kind of got a bit of a duo there. And AJ, he's sort of forming another duo with Kaylin as well. So you kind of got a block of 3 there. But are you on the same sort of idea as Nathan though, Hamish? Where you, like, do you think AJ should have sat back and not really done anything? Or do you reckon he should have tried to make this move?
No, I think that what I'm observing about a lot of players, particularly on this tribe, is that they lack patience. So obviously that with Indy. Also, I would say that with Logan, and I'll cycle back to this in a second. But obviously with AJ, like he starts to rally some numbers, and that's cool. And he's like, wait a second, what if I could get one of the girls on board? Wouldn't that be cataclysmic, right? And it would be cataclysmic. But his approach is like, I'm going to go up to them and tell them, pretty much, rather than time to work his way in there and figure it. He goes up to Ellie, or he's just like,
yeah, he literally was. He was just like, Ellie, let's blindside one of your closest alliance members. What? Actually, something that I did find really funny is that even before he tells Ellie the plan, he's like, hey, I've got a move in mind. Just like I'll tell you a bit later. Let me just confirm it. And Ellie's like, oh my gosh, he's got a blindside Rich. And she's like, Logan, we're going to blindside Rich. We're going to blindside Rich. And it's getting like the whole like coven involved, like except for Laura. It's like, oh my god, we're going to go after Rich. It's going to be so great. And then AJ's like, we're going after Logan. She's like, what? No. Like just went full 180. It's like, oh my god, so funny. But Hamish, do you reckon AJ should have just went along with it and just said, yeah, let's take out Rich? I mean, he didn't know this what they were thinking. But do you reckon he should have tried to pitch the idea to make like split?
Considering that he already messed up by telling girls or telling Ellie that he had this plan, when she comes back and says, well, to be honest though, like if he was bold enough to tell her that, he probably thought that she still would. To be honest, he just shouldn't have talked to her. He should have just left her out of it, period. But it's like what I say, like these contestants, they have these ideas like, oh, we could do this, we have to do it now. And I don't know if it's paranoia or if it's lack of patience, if it's excitement, whatever. But it's the same way that like, and something I really like about Laura as a contestant, whether or not she's made a whole bunch of good moves or if she's managing her alliance well, you can tell she's playing with her head. It's like when Logan is like, hey, like we really need to vote out Rich, like just being around him is just like to me. And Laura is just like, yeah, but that's emotional. Those she uses, right? And it's just like, obviously you should be careful when you say something like that to somebody, because you don't want to come across as unempathetic or like invalidating how they feel, because now you're gonna make them mad at you. But like until she's like, yeah, Rich is annoying, but he is not the biggest threat and he's wanting to work with us, So to be honest, I think that Laura and probably Kalen, is that his name? Are probably, in my opinion, the two smartest contestants on that tribe. AJ like seemed like he could have had that smart as well, and in his confessionals he was saying, wow, am I the only smart one on this beach? Yet he goes and tells the girl he fails to recognize that he needs to take his time with such a dubious, devious plan. He just stuffed it up like Indy did, or like like being like, hey guys, I burnt the hatch. He just shouldn't have told her. I like, girls talk, bro. Like, why would you?
No, I mean, Nathan, something I was like thinking about, right? Which this does go back to Laura, though I said earlier about her and her alliances, right? Where AJ potentially, like, if he knew that that's what Ellie was thinking of Rich, right? Maybe Ellie, Karen and Logan all do flip on Laura and her gang, and they do vote for Rich, and maybe it's like 3 on Rich, like 3 on Kent, and maybe AJ's able to pull in like Kent and Rich and Max who form a majority that way, or even just Rich or even just Max. But when I really look at it, Rich is so locked in with Laura and Logan, and obviously Max is sort of with Rich as well, that he would have needed at least 4 or 5 people to form a majority. and Kent's not joining him because Kent is still after Miles. Like there's just no way this plan is actually gonna work, right?
It's kind of going back to like something I mentioned earlier. I can't really remember the context, but like Occam's razor is sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one, right?
Yeah.
And I know like AJ's comment of like, this is boring. Like I really, this is the boring vote, or this is I don't want to play a boring game. It's like, sure, but if the criminal did the crime, arrest the criminal.
Not if you're in New Zealand. Just put them on house arrest.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome, welcome.
Yeah.
But anyway, the main thing I think as well that he was trying to avoid was to like avoid like a schism, right? Like he wanted to he didn't want Rich gone because he didn't want the girls to have like that majority over the guys, right? Like he was wanting like, okay, they're gonna start picking us off one by one, so I need people I can like manipulate and people I can have on my side, right? People I can convince that if they decide to start voting us out each one by one, I have like a person who can back me up, and we can all join together and do that, right? And so that was kind of why what I got gathered that he wanted to go after Logan instead. The issue is with that little strategy is, he, as he said, as Hamish said as well, he needed to convince another person from the girls' tribe to vote for Logan, which was just not going to happen. Like, it was just a gamble that needed a real good chance. But Occam's razor, Kent is right there. He's not joining you for anything. You're not convincing that man of anything. You're not convincing, and everybody else is after him. So just, I take that turn. You know what I mean? Or maybe you could convince him. You have to do a lot of like.
Okay, bro. What the simplest answer is maybe a matter of perspective. Is the simplest answer the criminal did the crime, arrest the criminal, or is the simplest answer use the criminal as a meat shield so that when it comes down to it, other people will want to vote him out before me? For now, no one's looking at me trying to get me out. I don't need to get rid of my meat shield yet. Why would I vote him out? Why don't I vote out the people I want to vote out? And then when he starts to come my way, well, I have my meat shield. Do you remember this criminal who did this crime? We should gang up on him. I think that when he needs one more number and he's got Ellie or Kent, what are his options? Ellie, vote with me. Or Kent, who do you want to vote out? I want to vote out Miles. Okay, Miles is a great idea. We could do that. I reckon you and I could team up. I can see me working with you and taking us together to the end. But for this to work, I have this really great plan. I need you to trust me. We need to get out Logan. Not only does that mean that we can get out Miles easier next time, it also means that the girls are weaker. That makes us way stronger. We can do this. We just need to get out Logan. And then Kent's like, a promise of us getting out Miles, my arch nemesis. I burnt his hat. Great plan.
Yeah.
The hat on it, or whatever. It's like, that's a great plan. You know what I mean? So I think that the simple answer is actually keep this guy around because he's a flipping meat shield, bro. Lie to him, manipulate him. He's you're his best friend. Really, you're just using. He's your goat. The simple answer is have a goat to take to the end with you. You know what I mean? It's just the same thing that Indy did, where she went to the person, she told them, and she did it wrong. That's what he did wrong. He just had to go to Kent and say, "I'll work with you," but instead he went up to Ellie and,
Yeah.
I agree somewhat. I think that's a really good answer. I think that's probably like ideally what should have happened. I don't know if it's simple. I don't know if it's like if I'm going with like simple, I'll just be like, okay, well.
But if it's the less simple answer, does that make it the less good answer? I
highly agree with that. Like that's clearly the right answer, right? That's clearly what you probably should have done, right?
Yeah.
I just personally think, this is just me if I was playing the game or if I was seeing someone playing the game and watching it, but once again, statistics, logic kind of goes out the window when you're playing Survivor, when you're playing with emotions and stuff. But going with the guy who everybody doesn't like, and then just being in that majority. Like, if you know you're not in trouble, being in that majority is probably the best possible thing you can do. Is it fun?
Yeah.
No, but will it work? Will it ensure your safety? Will it get rid of a crazy guy who burns clothes? Like,
Yes.
probably.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do like Hamish's thought process. I do think that is if AJ really wanted to gamble and AJ really wanted to play that game, he could have done it that way. And I personally think it would have worked.
Whatever happened? Like, why is a blindside a bad thing? When did blindside
Never,
start?
never a bad thing. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. But then again, we are talking about the brain tribe. There's no such thing as a blindside, okay? It's you tell the person who you're voting out that you're voting for them. All right.
I'm betraying you.
Yeah. Hey, I just want you to know that I am gonna put your clothes in the fire. I'm gonna vote you out.
And then I'm gonna blame this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right here.
This guy. Yeah, don't trust this guy because I did what I did. It just doesn't make sense. But
the brains on this man.
But I guess just quickly moving along though, Ali does end up telling Logan, because obviously they thought the whole time this plan was to blindside Rich, but yeah, nah, it's actually to blindside Logan. And Logan freaks out, like obviously it is hard to hear that your name is being brought up, and she does try to rally, the Witches Coven to vote out AJ here in the spot. Which I did think this was going to happen. I was like, knowing this cast, this somehow Kent and Rich are both still somehow going to survive this vote, and it's going it's going to be AJ, which I was really stressing out on. But thankfully, it's not him that goes. Like, Hamish, do you think the Witches Coven should have gone after AJ here in the spot?
Yeah, because like, dude, the only thing Kent is hurting is hats. Like, he has. Like, look, watch his votes, bro. Like, he votes Miles. Nobody wants to vote Miles. Like, he goes and has a nap during the scramble, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not getting anything done. Like, sure, he thinks I'm so smart, I'm controlling, blah blah. I got my puppets, but like, as another person on that tribe you're watching, and you're like, he has no puppets. He's not a threat to you. Yeah, he's flipping annoying. AJ incorrectly did a move, so maybe not that great either, but he was pulling it against you. Kent's trying to get out Miles. You don't care. You were thinking about getting out Miles at one point. Why are you voting out Kent? He's number. AJ, whether because he might do it right next time. What if he learns from his mistake? What if this was one little slip up? What he was almost very good, he may be.
Yeah.
Now that he's game, he may completely take apart their alliance. Their alliance is already crumbling a little bit because they've all got different ideas. Oh, some people want to get out Rich, Laura wants to keep him. Their alliance is not that cool, right?
Yeah.
AJ can definitely pick away at that.
Yeah.
Why would you not AJ? And if nothing else, for retribution for trying to go for Logan.
Yeah. Well, my main thing is like, look, it's a 47-day game. You're on like day 8, day 9. And you've got 2 people that's pissing you off. Like, it is a long game. And yes, the ideal strategy would be that you grab Kent, you drag him all the way to the end, because like the best chances are no one's going to vote for him to win. All right. But it's still that thing. You have to live 47 days with this guy, in fear that he's going if you show a hat, he's going to set it on fire, right? So it's like, yes, I do agree that probably the best move for the Alliance might have been to take out AJ in this point. I do think that social game is extremely important. And while it's like very hard to show, but players like Paulie, for example, you can easily pick up like, oh, he's in the center of everything, right? You can just tell that without like hearing him like say any of it. And same with Karen as well. Like, she really is like the backbone of that Alliance, almost. And so, yeah, that's where I think Kent really went wrong, was just a social game. And I think that's why in the end they did vote him out over AJ.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if you're going into a game where you're on an island with somebody for 47 days, you should probably assume that you're not going to get along with everyone and be prepared for that. But yeah, I mean, I do. and there are a lot of very not head heavy, but I guess heart heavy players that really go by how they're feeling, right? Obviously, Karen, a good example. Sure, she's making some reasonably logical decisions, but you can tell she's feisty. You can tell she's opinionated, not in a bad way. I do think it puts a target on her back. So I'm going to have to disagree with you as the one and only. Like, I don't think she's going to win. I think she's going to make too many enemies by being outspoken. But there are people like that. So I'm not surprised that they went for Kent. I just think that, if you're playing how it looks like Laura is trying to play, which is a lot more, I don't like these people, but I'm looking at the long game. I'm thinking about my game. Just sometimes like somebody is like annoying, but just like shut up. you know?
I actually have a counter argument, and I'd like both of you to hear it. This first they came for the Miles, and I said nothing. Then they came for the Ricks, and then I said nothing. Then they came for the Lauras, and then I said nothing. Then they came for me, and nobody said a thing. That is what would happen if Kent stayed in the game. He would just be like, this guy's like annoying, eh? And then all of a sudden it would eventually like, it would keep piling on. He'd eventually become less of an annoyance and more of like, oh God, he's actually got like a point, and then he'll actually start causing and sowing more chaos. It's one of those things where, personally, and this is just my view on it as well, the human brain is actually pretty. I know this is coming from the brains tribe, but the human brain is actually pretty good at identifying what will be a negative factor later down the line. Right? It's not good at tracking how. It's not good at tracking. It's not necessarily good at tracking how. It's not necessarily good at predicting it. But like, there's a reason why they voted him out subconsciously, as well as like, oh, he's annoying, right? It will basically be like, I think that this guy's probably gonna be a more of an annoyance, more than an annoyance down the line. The main chaotic, but not chaotic in a bad way. It's gonna and I think I think it becomes less of an issue when there are, like it becomes less of a factor when there are more people. If Survivor was 100 people and there were, things could be swung by populations. He would pretty much get to the very end, I'm pretty sure, because he'd just be so loud and flamboyant about it. But because it's such a small team and they're all like, yeah, this guy's going to be a real more than a nuisance later on down the line. Get rid of him now. It makes sense, right? That being said, though, I wonder what would have happened if he stayed.
That being said, Kent did bring more kindling to the tribe.
Oh, yeah.
But at what cost, my dear boy? At what cost?
Well, let's just quickly have a quick look here for just a hot second. All right. So Nathan, I know you weren't here for it, but this is our predictions list we made. Winning picks for Miles and Morgan, for post-merge, AJ, Karen, Indy, Laura, Max, Candy. We really did well here. Jesse, Nash, and PD. Pre-merge, Ali, Kaylin, Kent, Logan, Rich, Ben, Kate, Kristen, Noonan, Paulie, and Zen. And for the first boots, Zara and Ursula. However, unfortunately, Candy was the first one voted out, who we thought we were going to be going, pretty far into the game. I think it was mostly her pants. So, like, the green pants that she kind of had, it was very...
She was wearing pants? I mean, yeah.
It was like the green pants, yeah. And then, so who's the next one out after Candy? Who was it again? It was Indy, that's right. Indy, post-merge. Two people post-merge, the first two voted out. And unfortunately, Zen, medically evacuated. It's so sad to see him go here in the spot. And then last but not least, we have... Where is Kent? There he is. Kent. He's eliminated. Nathan, just by looking at our tier list and our predictions, do you reckon we're somewhat on point, or do you reckon we're completely off?
I mean, like, I think it's actually pretty good. Like Ursula was gonna actually be the first booted off, like and post merge wise, I think that's a pretty solid. I think that's a pretty solid list. I don't know if Miles will make it to the very end. I don't know. For me, I think, and this is probably going to change with time. And this is coming from me. I think Miles is my favorite player so far. Just because he's actually played it. He's actually played with brains, all things considered. Is it an entertaining game? Probably not. He's been at the crux of a lot of people throughout these 3 episodes. But
it may become entertaining again later, though. He may, like, once he's built that trust, if he gets post merge, right, he might like have a new opportunity with the new people. When the tribes mix, and then he might be able to, actually start to do something. So I have hope. I have faith for him.
I think he'll make it post merge. I think he'll make it pretty far into post merge. I don't know if he'll win. Morgan, I do agree. I think Morgan's very athletic. She kind of plays a very simple game as well. So she's kind of got that edge that Miles doesn't, which is that athleticism as well. So I think that really puts it on the edge there as well. Nash, I think, is if we were starting off, if I was just looking at this player base and I was like, oh hey man, yeah, Nash looks like he could be at post merge, yeah. But after these 3 episodes, boy oh boy,
Nash
it's looking.
Nash is the guy who's gonna be the last vote off before merge. You know what I mean? Like he's king of the early game and then fall quick. I reckon. The flame that burns out.
It's hard because we do also have like a unicorn in George, right? Who, I mean, to be fair, has got the most insane pre-swap game of all time. Where in 6 episodes, he takes half the tribe away. He's like a social pariah. No one wants to really work with him. He shows everyone he's found an idol. He plays on himself when he didn't need to. Then someone else finds an idol, sacrifices their game just to save George. And then at the last minute, someone flips the whole thing on its head to saving George. And that happened in the first 6 episodes. Like pretty much like an average American Survivor game story was the first 6 episodes for George. Like what he did in the first 6 episodes is what most people try and achieve and claim twice. You get what I mean? So I can see that maybe Nash is a unicorn in himself, where somehow he just finds a way to make him to post merge. But I think he's got the hardest road out of anyone to try and make it a bit further. But I do have a hot take though. Don't want you guys to hear me out on a hot take. I think Laura is the next person voted out of Brain's tribe. And hear me. It was a very hot take, but hear me out, right? Hear me out, right? So Laura, while she's playing a great individual game, she's not catering to her alliance, right? Her alliance really wants Rich out, right? They're sick of him. They want nothing to do with him. But Laura's trying to, keep Rich along, right? And yes, she's using the whole logic argument, right? But once people are sick of someone, they're sick of someone, right? And it's always only Laura that's really making this argument. Logan is less so making the argument of trying to keep around Rich because Karen really wants Rich out, right? And so it's kind of a thing where it's like you're not really catering to the alliance, you're catering to yourself. So I can potentially see Karen, trying to be like, okay, well, you're clearly not loyal to us. You're more loyal to your own personal alliance, especially because Rich did call out the VBs at the second tribal council as well. So I can potentially see a saving grace for AJ as of him, Kaylin, and Miles, because obviously AJ does really trust Ali. Maybe they team up with Zara, Karen, and Ali, who all really do want Rich out, but maybe they target Laura as like the bigger threat of that group. And that's my hot take.
My cold take then to simmer yours, because I still think Laura is final 5, and I think she is smart enough to see her alliance crumbling in that way, and then because she's already boys with Rich, and she has demonstrated that she is trying hard not to get him kicked out, and to keep him around. I can see her being like, okay, why don't I work with the boys? Girls Tribe was a fun idea, fun while it lasted, but I liked the idea of it more. When I saw it in actuality, I saw that these people didn't actually want to align their votes with what I thought was right. This is not even the alliance. The idea was better, and so I can see to be with the boys and be like, yo, Rich, like, let's flip and do this. I think that she is smart enough to navigate the tides turning in that way.
Yeah. How about you, Nathan? Like, what's your hot predictions for the next episode?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on who wins, right? Like Brains or Brawn. So far, Brawn has been killing it because Survivor challenges do require a lot of Brawn, and in comparison, so far, like there's been a lot more athletic, kind of parts to it than there have been. Like even the brain parts have been more athletic based as well. So I think, from my understanding, I think the Brawns might lose this next one. Just from my thing about it. And I'm probably gonna say, I think this is probably where I'm gonna say either like either Nuna. I think that might be Nuna, and I think that might actually happen if Brawn loses.
Okay.
Simply because of what I think it's Paulie, the PD, the paramedic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that little white lie that he said is probably going to come back to bite her.
Yeah.
Down the line, because I think he's going to establish some trust, and then he's going to be like, I probably don't want her around. Because she is, and I really like Noonan. She is playing a game that is very independent, right? She's stating a lot of stuff, like this person is doing this person is doing that. She clearly has an idea of how she wants to play the game, and just from her personality alone, she's really steadfast, right? If she doesn't want to work with someone, I don't think she will. And it seems as if, just from that initial reaction between her and Paulie or Paul, I just don't feel like there was a lot of that chemistry, even though he was trying to be like, hey, I did find a clue and I know where it is, but I haven't found it. Like, I still think that's she's not going to take that very well.
He's leading her along. That's a good point.
Yeah, and I feel like she can get it. Like, I feel like she kind of gets that, and she's like, you're not telling me everything, and I don't work with people that are liars, and so I'm just going to push you away, and then that's just going to come back to bite her, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in this world, being steadfast to your beliefs doesn't necessarily make you a winner. It doesn't necessarily make you a winner. But if it was Brains, and if it was Brains going home again, probably gonna take the colder take, and probably say Richie, and kind of go from there. Just simply because when you're as chaotic of a tribe as you are, and everybody is, maybe that's why it's called the Brains Tribe, is because everybody's kind of running on their own brain. There's no group think. There's no cohesion. They're all kind of thinking for themselves. And when
strategic masterminds.
Yeah, they're all strategic masterminds in their own head. And so when you have that chaos, you tend to go for, it all comes full circle. It all comes back to the guy. It's like, okay, who is the dude that we've all been going for the very beginning? And it will probably come back to him, because that's kind of the pattern that we're seeing. It's like, oh, Indy did this thing. The answer is obvious. Kent did this thing. The answer is obvious. Even though there was discussion about doing a better move, the obvious answer eventually comes back.
Well, something that I do just want to point out real quick, right, is I know a lot of people really don't like it, and they always like use the comment rig and stuff. But non-eliminations are a core essential part of Australian Survivor, and quite often there is a non-elimination in the second week. So somewhere between episodes 4 to 6, like Blood versus like All Stars, with Shonny and Zach going to Exile Island, episode 6. Was it? I think Brains vs Brawn, Kara got sent to the other tribe, episode 6. Blood versus Water, Sophie was sent to the other tribe, episode 4. Jerry was sent to the other tribe, episode 5, and I think last episode it was last season it was episode 5 once again that Kelly got sent to the other tribe. So just a heads up, I do think a non-elimination is going to come as well. I do personally quite like the you vote someone out, but they just go to the other tribe. I think that's quite a cool, neat twist. I know a lot of people like hate non-eliminations and stuff, but I feel like if you were to pick a non-elimination, that's probably the one I would always go for, right? Because then you create that drama of, does this person feel betrayed by their tribe, or like are they just going to spill the beans? You know what I mean? I feel like there's always great drama all centered around that. But unfortunately, though, that does close us out for this week's recap. But just before we do end everything, Nathan, we got to know, who is your winner pick for this season?
It's probably Paulie.
Paulie.
Yeah, the PD. The is it Paulie or Paul? I can't remember.
We've got PD, who's this lovely chap right here, and this guy is Paulie. So Paulie's one who found.
Yeah,
Paulie.
I think Paulie. Honestly.
Yeah.
He plays a really. He's a social guy. He's smart with things. About what he reveals and what he doesn't. I think the best thing that he's done so far, in my eyes, is that he knows when someone figures out their lie, like his lie, right? Like, and that's a huge advantage, right? Where even if it is someone that was obviously like, I don't know if you're telling me the truth, him being like, okay, how do I work around that, is actually something I don't see quite often. Like, I tend to be like, oh, I lied to this person and they believed me. Oh, I lied to this person, they didn't believe me. I have no contingency for this. It's kind of good to see that being done, and just from those 3 episodes alone, I like the move, and I also just like the guy. He's a very social guy. He's even in worst cases of scenarios, he's cracking jokes. He's playing moves that he's playing the right moves, and going forward from there. So I just think overall, I think that's a really good move to do, and for a Brawn, he's got brains. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, so are you about to say something, Hamish?
Just agreeing with him, just hearing out what he's saying.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of our recap. If you're new to the channel, smash the subscribe button. And can I just say as well, thank you so much. We've never had 37 people watching live before. This is a new high for the same time for Mucky Hope Productions. So thank you so much for watching today's podcast. If you want to see more of us, smash that subscribe button, hit the like button. Also follow us on Mucky Hope Productions. We've got some great content coming up moving forward, and I'll be posting as much of our schedule as I can on our Instagram. But until then, ka kite anō, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night. Catch you later, everyone. Bye.